There are many ways you can use to get into Warhammer, as a franchise is one of the biggest ones available nowadays, and due to that, it has a little something for everyone. Overall, it's an interesting franchise compared to the other ones that we have available nowadays. Hello there, my name is Moonblade, and in today's video we're gonna take a look at some of the options that you have available to get into Warhammer. I will cover both Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k, but I will focus myself more on Warhammer 40k because that's the one I collect and the one I enjoy the most. Let's assume you know nothing about Warhammer. So let's start answering the biggest question. What is it? At its core, Warhammer is a tabletop game created by Games Workshop, a war game where players take control of armies and fight each other while trying to complete a list of objectives. These armies are formed by miniatures that the players assemble and paint. Within the franchise, we can find two different universes. Each one has its own tabletop game. The first one is called Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and the other one is called Warhammer 40,000. Both are quite popular, so choosing between the two will depend on your personal taste. Let's take an overview of both so you can have an idea about the setting of each universe. Let's start with Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This is a universe with a medieval fantasy setting. If you like Game of Thrones, The Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, The Witcher, and many other worlds with a similar setting, then this will be the one that I will recommend to you. When it comes to the lore of this universe, the old world of Warhammer Fantasy was destroyed in an event known as the End Times. Pitched battles between the different races and the forces of chaos led to the destruction of the old world. At the aftermath, Sigmar, the god of humanity, clung to the core of the old world and was found by a celestial dragon. This dragon showed him the way to the 8 mortal realms. These are a group of 8 expansive planes of existence floating within the cosmos. The souls of the old world and the souls of new worlds were drawn to these mortal realms. Now Sigmar and his allies seek to destroy the realm of chaos once and for all. Currently, there are 4 main factions made up of different races and armies of the old world and new worlds. These are the following: the Grand Alliance of Order, who wishes to defeat chaos; the Grand Alliance of Destruction, that fight for their own interests; the Grand Alliance of Death, who seeks to conquer and rule the 8 realms; and the Grand Alliance of Chaos, that seek the destruction of all other realms. Now, if you don't like that type of setting, you also have available Warhammer 40,000. This is a universe with a sci-fi setting. If you like everything related to science fiction like StarCraft, Starship Troopers, Star Wars, Aliens, or many others, this is the universe for you. Warhammer 40,000 takes us to the far future, where humanity has been united under the banner of the Imperium of Men. So vast is the Imperium that day by day, new planets are conquered and colonized, while at the same time entire planetary systems are lost to the forces of aliens, traitors, and demons. When it comes to the lore, in the 30th millennium, the Emperor of Mankind launched a great crusade across the entire galaxy. Using his vast armies of super soldiers known as the Space Marines, and supported by armies of normal humans, mankind established the Imperium throughout different planetary systems. But the forces of chaos interfered and helped cause a civil war within the Imperium. The Imperium was split in two. Now 10,000 years later, the galaxy is now torn apart by death and destruction. Humanity is at the brink of extinction, and its darkest hour has arrived. Now that you have a basic idea of Warhammer, let's take a look at the different options that you have available to get into this franchise. There are several ways, and you don't have to play the tabletop to get into it. Warhammer can be an expensive hobby, so before investing your money on the tabletop, let's talk about the free resources that you have available online. As your first step into this franchise, I recommend you to watch a couple of videos about the history and background of Warhammer and the different races and factions. Unlike any other franchise, there are not blockbuster movies or series about this topic, at least not at the moment, which is why many content creators have created many videos explaining the aspects of each universe in detail. The lore is so vast in both universes that there are not enough videos to cover them in their entirety. This is a good way to dive into the story and see if it's something that you're gonna be interested or not. In addition to this type of content, I recommend watching the Battle Report channels. These are channels dedicated to the upload of full matches of the tabletop games. Here you can learn about the game, the rules, and the miniatures. Although playing the game is the best way to experience whether you like it or not, I think that the battle reports gives you a good idea of what to expect. On the social networks, I recommend looking for local groups. There are several groups around the world that like to get together and play the games. You can also play with your friends or visit a local game store or a Games Workshop store as well. Now that we cover the free stuff, let's take a look at some of the options that will require some investment. Warhammer as a franchise lends itself to many types of adaptations, such as video games, books, and animations. This is another way that you can use to get into Warhammer, but it will require a monetary investment. If we talk about video games, Warhammer 40k has a great advantage, due to the fact that it has a great number of good and bad video games. Many of them came a long time ago, so when it comes to pricing, they're quite cheap. This is one of the ways that I use to get into Warhammer. If you're interested in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, then I recommend you to get Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War, either Dark Crusade or Soulstorm. Both games allow you to get access to the different factions available on the tabletop. These are classic real-time strategy games, where you build your bases and your armies. Dark Crusade was my first game, and the one that got me into this universe. Now, if you're interested in Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, then the Total War Warhammer series is the best option for you. This is another strategy game that allows you to manage your territory, conquer new lands, and control your armies on the battlefield. The story of the game takes place before the events of Age of Sigmar, but it allows you to play all the races available before the end times. It's one of the newer games, and a new game is coming out this year. It gives you a good idea of this universe and the available races on the tabletop. The Warhammer lore allows to have several different types of stories. With so many characters, locations, battles, and plots, it's hard to choose where to start. If we talk about Warhammer Age of Sigmar, I think that Hammerhall and Other Stories is the best option, since this is a collection of stories that cover all the factions in the Age of Sigmar universe, which gives you an idea of who they are and how they operate. After that, I recommend you to get The City of Secrets. This novel presents a story of action, adventure, and mystery. Now, if we talk about Warhammer 40k, I think that Crusade and Other Stories is the best option. Just like Hammerhall, it collects a series of small stories that gives you an idea of the different factions within the universe. After that, I suggest you to start with the Horus Heresy book series that tells the story of the Civil War within the Imperium, one of the events that completely changed the history of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Now, this would be a touchy subject at the moment due to how Games Workshop is handling their IP, so I will not get into that situation, because this is purely an informative video. That being said, books and video games give us an idea of the different universes and their stories. But animated content is one of the most common ways for people to get invested into a franchise. By the end of August, Games Workshop will launch a stream platform known as Warhammer Plus. This will be a platform just like Netflix, but it will be focused only on Warhammer content. From animated series to painting tutorials and battle reports, this platform will be the best option to watch animated series based on both Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40,000. As I mentioned before, this is a tabletop game, a war game where armies try to fight each other and accomplish their own objectives. Overall, each army is made up of different types of units, so you can find leaders, normal and elite troops, creatures, and vehicles. The two biggest games are Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Each game has its own set of rules and armies. The gameplay will be different between the two due to the type of setting their universe is based off. For example, when looking at Age of Sigmar, it has a more melee combat focus due to its universe setting being based on a medieval fantasy world. There is also ranged combat, but melee takes the spot. On the other hand, if we look at Warhammer 40,000, this one offers a better mixture between range and melee combat due to its sci-fi setting. Range takes the spot due to the high amount of different range weapons available for both infantry and vehicles. Personally collect and play Warhammer 40,000. I really enjoy the sci-fi setting that it offers, but the following tips will also apply to Age of Sigmar. The best place to start, in my opinion, would be the paint sets. It is a small investment, but it offers you miniatures, paint, and a brush. I mentioned this as the best place to start because Warhammer involves assembling and painting a bunch of miniatures. So if you're going to do this several times, might as well try to experience the actual hobby side without spending a lot of money. Now, if assembling and painting miniatures is not a problem for you, then I suggest getting one of the starter sets. For Warhammer 40,000, it will be the Recruit Edition. This set provides you everything that you need to start playing the game. It offers miniatures for 2 different armies. It offers you also a rulebook, a set of dice, a ruler, and the information of each individual unit within the box. The best thing about this type of sets is that the factions within the box tend to be really easy to understand and play, so you don't have to worry about a bunch of special rules. Also, the units in the set can be used as a base of that army if you want to expand it in the future. The price is quite acceptable, but before buying it, I would recommend to have someone to play with, so you can take full advantage of the kit. After all, it is a tabletop game intended to be played by 2 or more players, and if you think about it, you can share the cost. With all that being said, you already have everything that you need to start playing the game, but if you want to start with a different army, you have to keep certain things in mind. First, to build a valid army, you have to follow the rules. The rulebook already provides you with an explanation on how to build an army, including the units that you will need and the amount of valid units that you can bring. Those rules are also available online. The game does allow you to play with different army sizes, so you don't have to start big, you can start small. The game is pretty much balanced using a point-based system. 2. Once you choose a faction, you will need the codex for it. This is pretty much a manual that provides you the background of the army, how to play it, and what units belong to that faction, as well as a datasheet for every single unit available. 3rd, every single miniature that you buy comes with their own datasheet. It is important for you to read it because it provides you all the information of that unit, including the weapons and skills that they have. It also provides you the rules on how to assemble a valid unit so you can use it on the tabletop. As for how to choose an army, I know it sounds cheesy, but just go with whatever catches your attention. I suggest researching a little bit before actually buying. The worst thing you can do is buying something without previous knowledge. My last recommendation on how to get into Warhammer will be getting into KILLTEAM or WARCRY. These are other games within the same 2 universes. The difference between these 2 games and the original ones, it's pretty much the size. Both KILLTEAM and WARCRY are focused on small skirmishes between squads of miniatures, so compared to a normal game of Warhammer 40,000 or Age of Sigmar, you will not bring a full army of miniatures. Instead of that, you'll be bringing between 10 to 20 miniatures to play with. This is a perfect way to try out different factions because normally all you need to build a squad can be obtained by pretty much buying just 1 box of miniatures. So you don't have to worry about buying a big army to start playing. And if you like the faction, you can use the same squad as part of a bigger army for the bigger games. Just for you to be aware of, KILLTEAM is set within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, while WARCRY is set up in the Age of Sigmar universe. Both games are different compared to the big ones, so the rules may be different. These are some of the ways that you have available to get into Warhammer. I really recommend starting with the free content before you invest your money in either the video games or books or the actual tabletop. Warhammer has interesting and quite unique universes that have a little something for everyone. So I think it's worth exploring all the ways that you have available to get into this franchise. If you liked the video and you're interested in seeing more content like this, leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the green darkness of the far future.